All right. How's it going, traders? We are back. Episode number 13. Everything's late. Nobody dies.
We should have done it on Friday.
Oh, we should have been lucky 13.
Yeah. Thursday the 13th.
Yeah, what can you do?
Close enough. Hi.
Hey, Jason.
Hi, Jason. Mother's talking to you, Jason. Sorry, go ahead.
I need to go back and just kind of rewatch a lot of that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I'm getting very nostalgic in my old age.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, me and the wife or the wife's not, but I am.
There's a thing called, I think it's Weird History on YouTube.
Oh, I love weird history.
Yeah, it's got like all the different years that all that stuff happened.
Right.
I was like watching the 1984 one the other day, and I'm like, oh, 1984. I was getting all wistful, and I'm like, oh my god, get your poop in a pile, buddy. Come on, man. Get real. Anyway.
No, I dig it.
We got a special guest here today for us.
Oh, nice.
Hey, hi, hi, hiya. Oh, this is speaking of like nostalgia. Look at that, man. That's like can't open it.
It's probably you're about to destroy it.
Probably
one
there
of
he
a
is.
kind collector's item.
Yeah, clamshell VHS packaging. Look at that. Isn't that
That
awesome?
is kind of cool.
That's so cool, man. Oh, look, he looks more lifelike than the actual Keanu Reeves does. Isn't that great, man?
Keanu's not looking like Keanu much anymore.
He's got that weird Sharpie beard thing.
Yeah.
That really just looks weird.
Yeah. And I watched the Bill and Ted's, the like 30-year later Bill and Ted thing.
That
was weird.
I didn't bother.
It was weird for me.
I didn't bother with it.
Had their daughters in it, and
really?
It was fun. It was fun.
Yeah. You know, as soon as you start saying, they had their daughters in, all I can think of is Kevin Smith and Johnny Depp, and I'm like, I have no interest, I'm sorry. Clerks 9 and Tusk 6 or something are coming, right? I don't know, whatever, who cares? Anyway.
I am looking forward to Clerks 3.
No, well, you'll let me know how that goes.
I'm big Kevin Smith fan.
I don't know if I should ask you on this, because I'm like, when this camera's on, I don't know if I should ask you. You can always cut it out, though, if it's going to hurt my business. But how is that Defenders Beyond?
Defenders Beyond. It's actually not bad.
Yeah?
It's not bad at all.
All right.
I mean, it's a solid B.
Okay.
Like it could be better. There are things I could do better with it. I kind of see where it's going. It's kind of predictable where it's going, but artwork's solid.
I don't like
it's Defenders
that much.
It's solid.
It's average.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you can expect more than average from comic books these days. I mean,
that's true.
They got 6 guys cranking out.
Yeah, you can, because we're going to get to my pick of the week in a minute there.
But yeah, they've got the big two. They both have like 6 guys cranking out the top, 4 titles.
Yeah, that's
every
true,
month.
Man.
So
and
what can they do?
They're just going like so cheap. You know, there was that time when like Marcos Martin, there are a couple other people that like they all draw very similar, and they were doing the Spider-Man stuff when it was coming out like 3 times a week, and like when they had those upper numbers, back to the legacy or whatever you want to call it. And like there were like 3 different artists that were working on Spider-Man, and then there were a couple artists that were trading off on Daredevil, and they were all interchangeable. They all looked exactly the same, and Martin was one of those. And I think that's why I'm like, oh, yeah. And
well, we saw that really in the 90s as well. I mean, when McFarlane hit everybody, even like your Jim Lee was starting to draw like McFarlane, because that was a hot thing.
Right, yeah. And I just found some of those old Capullo books that he did, Lynch Mob for Chaos.
Right.
God, those covers look awful.
Yeah.
Oh, they look bad, and they look like a D plus McFarlane. They just don't look good, man.
But yeah, so there's a very distinct style in the 90s, the Image era art. A very distinct style, and you can go back to the early to mid 70s. A lot of up and coming artists at that time were trying to do the Kirby-esque
They're trying to be Kirby
with the color
or
and the
Ramita
lining.
or
Right.
whoever. Yeah, yeah. And the Batman stuff was, or the DC stuff on the other side. Everybody was trying to be Gene Colan or Neil Adams or
Right.
whatever. But I mean, yeah, you're right. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
It does. But anyhow,
And I often wonder if that's so. The artists that are out here today, your Clayton Cranes and people like that, is their art style similar because they all harken back to McFarlane and Liefeld and these guys, and then all of their artwork similar because they look back at Ramita and those guys.
yeah, maybe, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a lot of it. I mean, a lot of it is like a lot of the kind of painted covers and stuff. And the computer colored stuff. Which I
Right.
mean, like was it Enhook Lee, Art Germ, Clinton Crane. Like they're all computer colored.
Right.
And sometimes like the Lee and the Art Germ and Middleton covers, I sometimes have a hard time telling the difference between them.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like for some of the problems that Peach Momoko may have with some of these covers, and I think she gets overloaded and the covers suffer. But when she's not overloaded, they're beautiful.
Yeah.
But I mean, if nothing else, you can definitely just say, hey, look, that is Peach Momoko. That's a distinct cover.
She definitely has her own voice.
Yeah.
And at least in American comics.
Yeah.
I think that's a style that we see a lot in the Asian stuff, the South Korean and Japanese stuff in particular.
Yeah, yeah, and it's I mean, you see some of that here, but I think it's probably more prevalent, in manga stuff.
Right.
But I don't know if there's anybody that's bigger than her with that style right now. I don't think there is.
Certainly not in America.
In the U.S., yeah.
For sure, or
Yeah.
Western Europe, anything like that.
Yep.
So, yeah, pretty interesting to explore. So we're gonna do a new thing here. We're gonna go over. See, we filmed this on Thursdays, so we've had at least 24 hours to read a book or two. Some of us own shops, and we get an advantage and maybe pick it up a day early.
Yeah, but I'm so
If we
tired
get shipped a
after. I'm
day
so
early.
tired after Tuesday, man. I don't even know if I remember anything I read. My God.
And every once in a while, I'll get like a preview copy from somebody and get a chance to read it. But so we're going to do the thing where we're going to pick our pick of the week and kind of talk about that a little bit. And this is mine, The Hollows from, is it IDW? It is
Image
IDW.
did this.
Image.
IDW, I think, did them before, maybe.
Yes, they
feel
did.
like
They did.
IDW, yeah.
So The Hollows, it's a great book. I was really, and it's funny because it's a lot of repeat themes. You've got it's post-apocalyptic society in the treetops with strange, bizarre creatures walking around and zombies living down on the ground. And
Yeah.
the zombies are the Hollows because there's nothing inside
Oh, okay.
a zombie.
I didn't realize that's what that meant. That's kind of cool.
But yeah, really, the artwork is beautiful in this one. Very steampunkish.
And now, since it is a Sam Keith book, I mean, I know Chris Rael wrote it, but since it's a Sam Keith book, is there like a large monster and a small girl that befriend each other?
There, yeah. I mean, it is what it is. But yeah.
Just wondering. Very much like the Max or Scratch or
Right.
any of the Batman.
And it's really interesting because it's a lot of common tropes that you see in a bunch. And we talked about this last week with the monsters. But like zombies have been really overdone. But they've managed to find kind of a unique way to put those into play here. It's a zombie archetype, but they're not really zombies. They're not dead people. They're just hollow.
Okay.
Like there's nothing inside. It's pretty interesting. And the kind of steampunk color palette and aesthetic on the art is really cool. So anyway, that's my pick, The Hollows. Really enjoyed this one. I did. There's a few others I read. We were talking about Ant-Man earlier. That was really close to being my top pick, but
I was going to read that because I'm very hot and cold on Al Ewing's writing. If I remember right, that is him that wrote it.
Yeah.
And I was going to read that as quick as possible because I really like Ant-Man. And then I remember that Variants 2 came out. Oh, segue. You about the Variants. That is... God, that's so fun, man. And you know what? Speaking of art, Phil Nato or Noto or Nato or Nata or Natella or however you say his name. I think it's Nato. Phil Noto. N-O-T-O.
Alright.
No2. Now that sounds like a Jedi.
It could be.
Grand Inquisitor No2. Yes. His art is always been so beautiful. You've got it still kind of has, because most everything does now. Like nobody sits down with a palette and colors and does the overlays or any of that stuff anymore.
Right.
But he has always just had this amazing style. It's almost kind of blocky at times, but not in a distracting way. Not like a Romita Jr. blocky, distracting sort of way.
Okay.
But the lines are so just beautiful. Like they're not crisp like traditional stuff. They kind of go into each other, but you can definitely see where the delineation of the lines. But God, it's just so beautiful, man. And does that make any sense when you're looking at that?
Is that his cover?
Uh-huh.
That is pretty.
That's gorgeous, man. The whole book's like that, man. It is just so beautiful.
Now, I've never been a Jessica Jones fan, because.
But I kind of changed that for you, didn't I?
You did.
Yeah.
You. Okay, I was going to say you turned me on to Jessica Jones, but that sounds like we're into something that we're not.
Oh no, that's fine. Tune in later for the after show, or don't.
Oh, that is pretty.
Isn't that just beautiful?
All right, before we get hate comments, I'm going to buy this. This is going to be my, this will be my reading copy.
Oh, man, now it's a very fine plus near minus.
Yeah.
It's like a 9-1. God.
Like, I don't want to spoil it for myself, but.
Yeah.
Because I haven't read number 1 yet. So, yeah, that is some beautiful art.
Purple Man.
I like the color. I like the coloring on that.
Well, and it's beautiful, man, because the Purple Man is back in this. So he's using purple and blue tones throughout most of the book. It's like the coloring's not subtle, but the way he changes it is kind of subtle. So you've got the blue tones, the purple tones, the red tones for Daredevil coming in. It is, and if this, I was saying before to you, I'm not a huge fan of like the multiverse comics,
right?
And I didn't really like Multiversity, and that's because part of that is because Grant Morrison was so busy patting himself on the back for being clever that he couldn't write the book. But it's just like oh man, it's always one of these. I've got grand plans. I'm gonna do this. I've got chalkboards and I got this and I got that, and there's strings going all over somebody's room, connecting this to that, and it's like a worker's or a writer's workshop but with one writer, and that's always kind of part of the problem that I have with it is it's like I really like Batman, but if I were to read a Batman comic, I want Batman to be in it. We kind of talked about this before,
right?
I don't want Earth 7 Batman. I'm not that interested in that. I'm interested in DC Comics Batman.
Right.
That's why I'm getting tired of the Spider-Verse stuff. The Gwenverse, the Spider-Verse, the this verse, the that verse. I'm getting really tired of it. I'm getting tired of all the X-Men spin-offs that don't actually take place in the X-Men universe. Oh man, you know what? Yeah, this took place a long time ago. That's just a lost tale. Well, okay. I mean, that's kind of cute a couple of times, but when you got 4 or 5 series that are doing that right now, that's a bit much. you know. But the multiverse stuff, I feel like there's, one writer that gets these grand ideas and schemes, and they're like, oh, okay, then we're going to do this, And then they get so deep into it that, number one, it's really hard to understand. Number two, it's kind of cheesy. Like the What If Miles Morales. I only read the number one, but it was really awkward.
Right.
And cheesy, And it's like, oh, well, okay, there is no Red Skull, so there's going to be a Gray Skull. That's like, why? Why do you have to have a skull? Just have him, tell the story of Miles Morales being Captain America. I don't care about a grand battle within 15 pages. That's exactly the same character with a different name than the regular one. I don't care, you know? And they get so bogged down in that. It's either silly and cheesy or it's so confusing you don't know what's happening. And I feel like with Multiversity, they get so into it that it's too complicated, and then they just toss it out. And then, like DC just was like, yeah, okay, whatever, moving on. And just said, screw it, we're just going to do New 52, we're going to restart stuff.
Right.
Or, you rebirth and just restart it and not pay attention to that. And then later on, they bring it back, and nobody knows what it is. And they're like, oh, what is Multiversity? Well, you have to buy these 19 one-shots, and then there's this 4-issue miniseries here, and then Batman was a cowboy for a little bit, and it's like, oh, God, who cares?
Yeah. Well,
this is the way to do it.
I think that the whole use of those, the multiverse is, it's just lazy.
It's kind of a worn-out trope by now.
Yeah, it's a worn-out trope when they did it. Basically, the reason we have a multiverse, well, DC did it first because they had to fix everything that they had messed up.
And that's a good reason for it.
So let's have a crisis on Infinite Earths and bring everything down to one Earth.
Yeah, and that's the way to do it.
And then, do that with it. But I think what's happened is now they're like, well, we're failing to tell creative stories. What can we do creatively? Well, I know. Let's have Captain America. Well, that's not creative. We've done Captain America. Yeah, but we've never done him with Miles Morales before.
Yeah.
And we've never done him with with Gwen before.
Right, yeah.
So,
it's
still the same story.
Whatever. It's exactly the same story. Yeah. And that's kind of, with Miles Morales, it was one thing led him to that instead of the other thing.
Yeah.
And at the first I was like, oh, that's kind of clever. That's how he gets it. And then nothing. But this right here is how you do a multiverse story. Gail Simone and Phil Nato, they did a bunch of like Birds of Prey and stuff like that together. So they've worked together before.
Right.
And you can just tell just by reading this, everything flows and hooks up really nicely. The What If Miles Morales did not do that. There was awkward dialogue, it jumped from one thing to another. And it seemed to be moving sometimes at the same time it was moving so slow but also so fast. It was just disjointed. This is a smooth book. It is really, really good. And I'm biased because I like Jessica Jones anyway. And, Gail Simone, for the most part, really like her work. She's done a couple of things. I'm like, okay, whatever. But for the most part, I like her.
Well, and that it's going to be about the talent in the writing when it's a project like this, because nobody's buying Jessica Jones. If there were a mainline title, Jessica Jones, it wouldn't sell. People are not buying Jessica Jones. She's not the flashy upfront character.
Well, the Blind Spot or whatever it was that Kelly Thompson wrote. That was a hardcover that then they serialized like they're doing with Deadpool Bad Blood.
Right.
People bought that quite a bit, but that was also really good.
Right.
There's like this top talent just pops onto Jessica Jones, and that's why this character is so good.
Yeah.
You've got like this amazing talent doing this stuff, and that's kind of the problem I have. I think so much with Captain America or Superman or the Hulk. Anybody can write those characters.
Right.
you know, and you're like, okay, Hulk smash, Superman fly, Captain America shield, no, bad Nazi. Okay, good. There you go. You've got yourself a story, right? Jessica Jones, yeah, she's got a past and everything, but you have to be a really good writer to navigate that in a good way, because there's a lot of messed up stuff with her and the Purple Man and all that kind of stuff, man. You know, so you got to be able to navigate that in a good way.
And with these other characters, you've got 60 years of lore to fall back on.
Yeah.
Whereas Jessica Jones, you've got 20, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And you know, I mean, you know, my point is like a top tier writer can do some great stuff with those other characters. Like, you know, as much as I bag on Grant Morrison, sometimes All-Star Superman, with the exception of the Jimmy Olsen mess, was really, really good.
Right.
You know, that was actually very enjoyable. Oddly enough, you know, because I don't really like Grant Morrison, I don't really like Superman, but somehow they came together and it was good. You know, but like Batman's another one. If you don't have a really good writer, you know, they're trying their best to make him DC's Iron Man.
Right.
He's got flashy suits, he's got gimmicks, he's got, you know, mechanized this and blah, 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 and he can teleport to the moon, and that's not Batman, that's Iron Man.
Right. And that's why I don't care a whole lot for what's happening in Batman right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I like what they've done with the detective title. And I think the direction that they're taking detective. Do you read detective?
I'm stupid behind on it.
So detective has recently, in the past 2 years or so, really gotten back into that detective storyline where
which it should be. That's what it should
Batman's
be. Yeah.
a detective, and he's like a private investigator with fancy toys. That's what Batman was meant to be.
Yeah.
And I agree. The Batman title, actually, Batman, Urban Legends, World's Finest, anything outside of detective that has Batman in it, he plays that superhero Iron Man type character.
Yeah.
But with detective, and I think it was a matter of, honestly, the art was driving them to do these detective storylines.
Okay.
Because like that art on those, especially like the B covers.
Oh god,
where it's dark,
it's
gritty.
straight out of the film noir.
Yeah.
It's like somebody got a film cell and just blew it up and drew Batman in and said, "There you go."
But that's, to me, that's what kind of drove that writing to be more intellectually based.
Yeah.
Like make Batman what he originally was.
Yeah.
And I think they've done a really good job with that. I really love what's happening with detective lately.
Well, and that's why I liked the new movie so much.
Yeah,
it was a detective movie.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I thankfully the emo hair and the eye makeup and stuff was only in it for like 40 seconds altogether. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I was like, oh no, God, this looks like a mid-2000s Warped Tour concert. And you know, thankfully they really fixed that. And that was not their prime aesthetic for the movie.
Right.
Thankfully. You know, I mean, when he turned sideways, it was a little too round. It looked a little weird still, you know, but I understood why, because it was kind of armor-ish, you know. And I think that Batman, like, should have, you know, a Kevlar suit or, you know, something like that.
Right.
You know, I mean, he totally should have, because he doesn't have powers. You know, if he's just walking around in his underwear, if he gets shot, he's dead. You know? Yeah. And that's like, you know, that was the whole thing with the chest piece, is that's where the eye draws. So they don't shoot him in the face, they shoot him in the chest, because that's what you're looking at.
Right.
You know, it's Batman's version. My eyes are up here, you know. But yeah, you know, so he needs something there, because if he's just wandering around in long johns and a spandex costume, he's dead. You know, but he shouldn't have, you know, jet boots, and he shouldn't have stuff that's like stun gun comes out of his wrist, and you know, like the things on his you know, on his gauntlets can, you know, shoot out and trace a kid. I don't know, whatever the crap they're doing. You know, that's a little bit much. Now he should have, you know, some gadgets and gimmicks and stuff, you know, but they should be related to the whole detective thing. And that's why I liked so much. The '90s got a bad rap for a lot of stuff, but I feel the Batman stuff was really good then. Because you would have like when Kelly Jones and Doug Mock were doing it, right around the Nightfall stuff,
right.
And then you'd have something happen, and Batman, it's all in the dark, and it's like dark, and there's so many shadows, and Batman comes up, and instead of like, pressing a button and something comes out of his cowl and analyzes fingerprints, he literally will reach in and get a fingerprint duster and dust for prints, and then take it, then run it through the Bat computer. It's like, that's what I want to see.
Right.
That's what I want to see.
And they're really missing opportunities there.
Yeah, I feel like they are.
There are a lot of other characters that can take that more superhero, like augmented human role, like a Tony Stark in the Batman universe.
Oh yeah,
still would be great as that.
Yeah,
I think
that's and that's a great idea. I mean, I feel like maybe World's Finest should be Superman and Steel.
That'd be cool. I'd watch that.
Then they can do that. Then you get your Iron Man archetype. You get your whatever you want. And then you've got them going, and it's never made sense that Superman and Batman team up. It's never made sense to me.
Right.
Like the Superman's like, oh, Batman was shot. Hold on, I'll run backwards and change time. And Batman's like, I think that's a pubic hair. That's a clue. They're so different.
Right.
It's like they just don't. They made sense in the 40s and 50s because it was all fun and goofy and dumb, and some little bit in the 60s, Yeah. But I mean, like modern stuff, it just doesn't make sense unless you're doing some kind of a throwback book like Marvel's been doing.
Right.
Or an out of continuity or some kind of Elseworlds or something like that. It just doesn't make sense for those two to be together.
Yeah, it really doesn't. And I mean, World's Finest would be, they should really take that back to its roots and just, because it was it Batman? It was a Batman team-up book. It was Batman and then a rotating cast of characters. It wasn't always Superman. It was Batman with Superman this week and Flash next week and Wonder Woman the week after that.
Yeah. And they, I mean, it was mostly Batman and Superman that were there doing stuff, but yeah, and I mean, they had other characters coming in. And they tried that, Marvel tried that with the Marvel team up. When they had, it's Spider-Man and Ms. Marvel. Or Spider-Man and Captain Marvel, and Spider-Man and Ms. Marvel, and then it was like Captain Marvel and Ms. Marvel. And then it was, somebody else. And they tried that. It didn't work. It didn't sell. Because you need those marquee kind of players there. So having, like, lesser-known heroes as your team-up, unless it's got a huge character there with them. And that could work with Batman, But there's not a lot. I don't feel like there's a whole lot of DC characters that can team up with Batman realistically, besides in the Batman universe.
Well, there's not a lot of them that make sense, and even in the Batman universe. I mean, at this point, Nightwing's gotten beyond Batman.
Yeah, Nightwing doesn't really belong with Batman anymore.
Not anymore.
Okay, you know what I would like? Oh my God, you know what I just had a thought. What I would love to see for a World's Finest is just a Batman team-up book, okay? And they could have Batman, Detective Comics, and World's Finest. World's Finest is a black label book.
Yeah.
Not like a square bound, just a regular black label book. And he could team up with The Question and Constantine and Zatanna.
Oh, that would be cool.
And Swamp Thing and, those darker characters. And that would make so much more sense. And that would be such a great book. I think it would sell
a hell of a lot better.
Yeah, it would. I feel like it would.
Yeah.
And that's, cool. And that, I would read that. And you do 3 Batman books a month. Those are the 3 you do. And I would be on board and buy every single one of them.
Yeah.
Because then you could just narrow down your focus on that character. Because there is no focus with Batman anymore.
Well, they told us, like 2 years ago that Batman was going to be their thing. There was actually talk at one point of DC said, we're going to cancel everything else if it doesn't have Batman in it, it's gone, and we're going to rely on Batman to carry the entire weight of the DC universe.
They've almost done that,
and it's gotten pretty close. I think what really held them back is they realized you can't pull the trigger on something like that with Superman.
Yeah,
like
they tried.
They tried, and they're still kind of halfway in, halfway out.
Yeah,
with Son of Kal-El, this new Superman.
But look how much better Action Comics is selling now that's the Superman book.
Yeah,
people are loving it. It's selling well. People are reading it. They're loving it. They're buying it. The Son of Kal-El. A couple people are like, "Oh, I just want Superman. I'm going to drop it," and I get it. But then there's a whole other audience for it that's picking up the slack.
right.
So it's selling fairly well. But Action is really selling well.
Yeah, it's really picked up in the last 6 months or so, for sure.
And people are enjoying it. They're really liking it.
Now the one that they really need to fix is the Wonder Woman stuff.
Yeah.
Like that Wonder Woman's all over the place.
Yeah, that's true. We don't need 3 or 4 Wonder Woman titles.
Yeah.
We just don't. We need one.
And they all have a different lead. Hippolyta's like gone now, and she's on Mount Olympus. They made her a god on Olympus. And just weird stuff.
Oh yeah, and then
going
the
on.
Artemis came out this week.
Yeah.
It's that's too much. They've got 3 or 4 characters that have basically all of the series. For
Right.
some reason, because of the movie coming out again. Okay, Aquaman has got like 4 series right now, and that's down.
Right.
You don't need that.
Yeah.
You don't need that. And they're all miniseries too. Like none of them are actually ongoing, and they just keep pumping out miniseries.
Yeah.
And I really think that, and they're not selling well.
The Aquaman stuff.
Yeah, they're not. You just do Aquaman. Just do the series Aquaman.
I mean,
That's
I thought that they hit on something when they basically made Aquaman Prince Namor. Like that's really what they did.
Yeah.
About 5-6 years ago that they did that, and have kind of followed through that with the Jason Momoa Aquaman. But you lose anything that was remotely Aquaman before that.
Yeah. And that might be a good idea. It might be a bad idea, but just commit to something.
Well, and Aquaman's been the longest running joke in comic book history since his debut.
Yeah, that's true.
Which, honestly, for hardcore comics fans that read those titles, is completely unfounded. I used to subscribe to Aquaman. Aquaman's always been kind of a badass.
Yeah.
But in his own little world, which is 60% of the Earth.
Yeah, that's a lot.
The
The dude rules more than half the world.
Yeah.
He kind of should be a badass.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think I think they need to. It's almost like DC has a fear of commitment. They don't know what to do
Right.
with their characters. And I heard months ago, well, wait till Discovery takes over. It's going to be great. They know what to do. Well,
Not seen it yet.
they've taken over.
It's
haven't
been
they?
a while.
It's been a little bit.
Right.
It's probably worse. The distribution and those sort of
yeah.
decisions they've been making are definitely worse. And I found out why my FOC didn't go through. Because when I hit submit, it cycled, and their website is such a piece of crap at timeout. So it didn't take my order.
So you couldn't get in your FOC?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And they're like, well, it looks like most of them will fill. Great, thanks. Just print more. You got an FOC that was put in.
Wow.
Just print more. And that's, I feel like that's the other thing that DC needs to do right now. And they need to do like a 20 to 30% overprint.
Right.
Because like it's so hard to get those returns in, and it's so much hassle, and you have to jump through so many hoops, and that's what they want, so you don't do returns. That instead of ordering with confidence and being like, oh, if I have 10 extra, I can send 3 back. Instead of doing that, now I'm just cutting back. I'm just cutting those 7 back immediately. So I just have a few extras, and I feel like they should do like a 20 to 30% overprint. You know what I mean? And keep them there, man. They're comic books. People are going to want to reorder them.
Well, the thing that doesn't make sense about that is they're like they take those overprints that they do have and they put them in value packs and send them out to Walmart and they send them out to Target. It's not like they don't get sold.
Right.
Like it, and comic books are one thing. I saw somebody did the math on this or research on this, and if adjusted for inflation, a comic book that cost 25 cents in 1972 should currently only cost $1.75.
I was going to say probably about $2.
Yeah, so $1.75, and they're $6. So it's not like the profit margins aren't there. So what? And we all know they're not paying the artists.
Oh yeah, their page rates are a joke.
Their artists are going to Europe so they can actually get paid.
And then they're taking the European artists, a lot of the European artists, and paying them, peanuts to do pages.
Right.
And then it's like, yeah, okay, well, I mean, and the only time writers are really making money, or if they sell it, if it gets optioned somewhere.
Right.
So, they're definitely not putting that money into the talent. They're not doing that, no.
Right. So, I mean, it's profitable. There's no reason why they can't, do an overprint and maybe put some money into their infrastructure.
Yeah, they really should. I mean, and it's like, I thought at first, and it was kind of like this, when Marvel got taken over by Disney, when they got bought out, and I was like, oh, okay, this is great. I mean, we have Disney money backing up Marvel, so Marvel's never going to go away. We got Disney money backing these movies,
Right.
But the situation is they've gotten cheaper with what they're doing and their product and their everything.
Right.
They're trying to save money so hard that just the opposite has happened, and it's like they're pulling money away from that. They don't. It's weird. It's exactly the opposite of what I thought would happen.
Yeah, I was excited about the Disney thing because I thought that this is the time that they're going to invest into Marvel Comics because these comic books are laying the footprint for what we're seeing on screen. So, of course, they're going to put the money into the comics to get new talent, fresh ideas, and, make that move forward in an exciting and dynamic way. So the movies will be better, and it just never panned out.
Yeah. No, it's turned into a Disney assembly line.
Yeah.
Which is disappointing. And everybody was like, oh, no, it's the Disneyfication of Marvel. And I'm like, no, because, they're still swearing in their movies. They're still making Deadpool, and like, oh, it's not Marvel. Yeah, it is. It is Marvel. It's a Marvel movie. Regardless of who's putting it out, whether it's Fox or Sony, it's still a Marvel movie.
Right.
Because, contrary to popular belief, and I don't know why people don't get this, Fox does not own the X-Men. Sony does not own Spider-Man.
Right.
They have the film rights, and that's such a different thing.
Right.
And it's like, they were like, oh, well, this. And I'm like, well, no, I always said if Marvel just wanted to, I guess, put out X-Men movies, or, if they wanted to put out more X-Men comics or anything like that, because people are like, oh, they're not putting out X-Men comics anymore because they're mad at Fox. I'm like, no, the X-Men quit selling.
Right.
Deadpool's all over the place. That's Fox's biggest hit.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, why wouldn't they make money off of that? Of course they're putting out X-Men books. And Fantastic Four, they're not, because Fantastic Four didn't sell for crap for a long time. And that's why they ditched it. But Reed Richards and Doctor Doom were like two of the main characters, in so many of those, events and stuff like that. And I always said, well, if Marvel just, instead of fighting and punishing Fox, if they wanted to do something, they just buy them, and by God, they did.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what it comes down to is Disney's got the deepest pockets of any entertainment company in the world. Probably deeper pockets than all the rest of them combined. If they wanted to buy the X-Men back, they would buy the X-Men back.
Yeah.
They just would. And they wouldn't think twice about it. It wouldn't be an issue. They would just do it.
Right.
Like that, the rights are not what's keeping them from making different X-Men books or newer X-Men books, or keeping them from changing the name from the X-Men to the Mutants.
Right, yeah. It's just, yeah, they got plenty of money. They're doing okay.
Yeah.
But they're not, I think you're right, they're not putting them in the right places.
Right.
So, but anyhow, that's the right place right there.
Yeah, I'm almost tempted to read the first couple of issues. I want to wait until the series done, but I'm pretty excited to read it.
Yeah, it's super cool. It's really cool. That's, again, that's how multiverse stuff should be done.
Right on.
And when it's not like, oh man, somebody, I mean, it's still a little bit disorienting, but not confusing. It's a little disorienting, because she punches another Jessica Jones, and you're like, oh. And she's like, all right, fine, now that your ass is out, let's see what's going on with you,
in my mind, and I'm thinking, like, how you can't fluster Jessica. Like, you just can't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she could have 20 Jessicas show up in her apartment and be like, I'm going to need a drink for this.
And that's pretty much how it goes.
That's how it gets handled.
Yeah, you got a, Captain America, Jessica, and she's just like, and she's like, wow, you should do that and that. And she's like, yeah, okay.
I would
actually just sucker punches her and lays her out, and it's just like awesome. She's not even like, whoa, what's going on here? Yeah, and you're right. She's not flustered. She's like, yeah, okay, well, I guess this is where we are now.
Yeah,
this is today.
That's what I like about Jessica Jones, and that's what I like about that TV series. Kristen Ritter just understands that character.
Yeah, and I didn't
more than anybody that's ever portrayed a superhero. I think that's the one.
Yeah, I mean, she's got that sort of bored, I'm over it aura about her, and that is exactly what's needed for that character. Right. And I really liked her in Breaking Bad. I thought she was really good in Breaking Bad. Yeah. I've seen her in a couple other things, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's just a person. Oh, that's Jessica Jones. Okay, she's not awesome in everything. And I thought, I was a little nervous going into it because I liked Alias so much, the comic. And I was a little nervous. And then I saw the first episode, and I'm like, oh my God, she's Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
It's perfect. So good.
By far the best portrayal of a superhero I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. Good stuff.
All right, so good stuff. And we are at our time limit. I'm going to pack this up, and I'm going to pay for it and take it home with me.
Oh, okay, cool. Those are all good things for me. Appreciate that.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Last words?
Last words. We didn't get beyond, picks of the week, but
we started doing pick of the week tangents.
That's kind of where we're at. This is
kind of what we do.
This is the tangent show.
Yeah,
we kind of go off onto all kinds of interesting little tidbits, niblets.
Tangent dream.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So we're gonna wrap this.
Did you say niblets?
Niblets. That's what it's called. I don't know. I heard it's some British thing. I don't know. I've been watching a lot of Tolkien lately.
Okay. All right. Fair.
Oh, yeah.
Anyhow, there we go. Thanks for tuning in.
All right. make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And tune in on Wednesdays. Wednesdays we do live from Black Hat Comics. We do the new Comic Book Day show where we run down the wall and let you know everything that we have here. And then we put these out on Monday. It's got a new show coming out. Look for it. We're going to do a end of the month wrap up. I'm going to tap some of the members of the comic community to join me on that one. So you want to stay tuned for that.
Like and subscribe.
Like, comment, and subscribe, and ring the bell so you won't miss out on any of this great content. All right.
Sorry, that distracts you.
Later, traders.
You ever seen a little bald man go after